Let them misunderstand you. Confusion is the tax people pay for accessing someone they can't categorize. That's the reality chosen ones quietly live in, whether they admit it or not. And here's an uncomfortable fact backed by psychology. The human brain hates what it cannot predict. When people can't fully read you, their minds start filling the gaps with wild assumptions, misinterpretations, and theories that sound like they were written by someone who skipped the logic chapter of life. And somehow, you become the villain, the mystery, the threat, or the acting brand new one, all because your spirit refuses to shrink into their mental boxes. But here's where it gets almost hilarious. The more people try to figure you out, the more they expose how little they understand themselves. They'll swear they've decoded you. Meanwhile, they can't even explain their own choices, their own patterns, or why they still talk to people who drain their energy faster than a bad phone battery. That misunderstanding they throw at you, it's never really about you. It's about the war between their assumptions and your authenticity. And this is exactly where your true power lies. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to justify. You don't need to turn into a walking PowerPoint presentation explaining your intentions. When you let people misunderstand you, you stop participating in a game that drains your brilliance. You stop rearranging your identity to fit someone else's incomplete perception. You stop giving CPR to relationships that were never breathing honesty to begin with. What they call mysterious, difficult, or hard to read is simply what happens when someone operates from a higher emotional altitude. You see further than they do. You process differently. You carry wisdom that doesn't fit neatly into surface-level minds. And instead of letting their confusion frustrate you, you start using it as a quiet superpower, a filter, a boundary, a shield, and, let's be honest, sometimes a free comedy show when people confidently misread situations you never even participated in. Today, we're diving deep into the truth. Your power as a chosen one isn't in being understood. It's in being unapologetically you, even when people completely misinterpret what they're seeing. Because once you learn to let confusion do the work for you, you'll see how much protection, clarity, and elevation comes from simply stepping back and letting people wrestle with the version of you they invented. Let's get into it. Number 1, their misunderstanding is the proof you're operating from a higher layer of reality. People misunderstand you because they are trying to read you from a level you stopped living in a long time ago. When someone hasn't grown, every evolved part of you feels like a glitch in their system. They think you're hiding something, acting strange, or switching up, when the truth is that you simply upgraded and they didn't. And because their mind has not expanded in the ways yours has, they interpret your every move through outdated thinking. It's not that your communication is unclear, it's that their perception is limited. They're not seeing incorrectly, they're seeing incompletely. When you start operating from a place of self-awareness, inner peace, and spiritual maturity, you automatically stop speaking the same emotional language as people who operate from impulse, insecurity, and ego. They don't understand your calm because they're used to chaos. They don't understand your boundaries because they've only dealt with people who tolerate disrespect. They don't understand your vision because they've trained their life to stay small. So when they look at you, they don't see a person. They see a mirror reflecting everything they haven't yet dealt with. And this is where the real power is. Every misunderstanding becomes a quiet confirmation that you've outgrown the environment, the relationships, and even the version of yourself they still think you are. It's like they're trying to use an old map to navigate a city that has completely rebuilt itself. They're frustrated, confused, or suspicious because they're determined to judge your present using their memory of your past. That mismatch is the evidence of your evolution. The more you grow, the more you'll notice people struggle to interpret your motives. That's because your life is no longer driven by the same fears, habits, or patterns that once made you predictable to them. Their confusion is just the echo of your transformation. And instead of trying to correct, explain, or soften your truth, you learn to let them sit with their assumptions. Because in the end, you don't live to match their understanding, you live to honor your growth. Number 2, you become untouchable when you stop translating your soul for smaller minds. There comes a moment when chosen ones realize that trying to explain themselves to people who will never truly understand is a complete waste of energy. Every time you break down your thoughts, intentions, or feelings for someone who is not capable of grasping them, you chip away at your own power. You try to meet them where they are, but their capacity doesn't stretch far enough to meet yours. And in that effort, you shrink yourself, you water down your essence, and you trade your sovereignty for their temporary comfort. Once you stop doing that, something incredible happens. You become untouchable. When you no longer feel the need to make people see your logic or justify your actions, you create a barrier that no negativity can cross. Their judgments, misunderstandings, and assumptions can bounce off you without leaving a mark. That confusion they carry becomes your shield instead of your burden. By refusing to translate your soul into terms that are digestible for them, you start living unapologetically on your own frequency, a frequency they can sense but cannot control, predict, or manipulate. What's fascinating is that most people will interpret this untouchable presence as arrogance or distance. They will whisper things behind your back, poke at the edges of your life, and try to provoke you because they cannot enter the inner world you've mastered. But in truth, you are untouchable because you no longer give them keys to your energy. You are not defensive, reactive, or performative. You simply exist fully, and they can only try to understand a version of you that isn't yours to hand out. This is where real freedom lives. You stop policing your intentions. You stop explaining your purpose. You stop bending yourself to be readable or palatable. You stop performing in the theater of someone else's limited understanding. And the moment you do that, you're no longer vulnerable to their projections, expectations, or attempts to control you. You are untouchable because your power isn't something that can be debated, misread, or stolen. It simply is, and you finally honor it in its full, unapologetic truth. Number 3, misunderstanding. Exposes who was only there for the benefits, not the bond. One of the most brutally honest truths chosen ones discover is that misunderstanding is a natural filter. People will always interpret your actions through the lens of what they want from you, not who you are. When they misunderstand your intentions, their reaction often reveals more about their loyalty, or lack of it, than about your character. Those who stick around, despite misinterpretation, are invested in the real connection. Those who leave or attack are showing you exactly what they were there for: benefits, convenience, or temporary gain, not an authentic bond. It's astonishing how quickly some people will abandon you the moment they feel threatened or confused. The same people who once seemed inseparable or loyal suddenly distance themselves, create false narratives, or even gossip. They act as though your integrity, clarity, or independence is a problem, not realizing that their misunderstanding is entirely rooted in their own limitations. Misinterpretation becomes their tool to exit gracefully or aggressively without confronting their own inconsistency. It's a revealing moment. You see who valued you as a person and who valued only what you could provide. The beauty of this process is that it spares you time and energy you would have wasted defending or explaining yourself. People who were never truly invested cannot sustain a relationship that requires depth, understanding, or accountability. Their misunderstanding becomes a natural clearing of space in your life for those who are aligned with your energy. It's almost like the universe uses confusion as a litmus test, letting the weak, superficial, and opportunistic drift away while the real ones stay. And when you stop worrying about being misinterpreted, you gain an unshakable clarity. You see relationships for what they are instead of what you wish they could be. Misunderstanding no longer frustrates you. It educates you. It exposes character, illuminates intentions, and forces you to value your own presence over someone else's opinion. The people who matter will adjust, align, and stay. The rest will reveal themselves and leave, and in that revelation, you reclaim your power, free from illusions, manipulations, and false bonds. Number 4. Your mystery forces people to reveal their true motives. When people misread you, they're doing more than just making mistakes. They're exposing themselves. The way someone interprets you often reflects their own desires, fears, and insecurities. They project onto you because they're trying to understand you using the lens of their own life, and in doing so, they reveal what drives them, what they're afraid of, and what they're secretly hoping for. Your mystery acts like a mirror they can't escape, reflecting truths about themselves that they've been hiding even from their own conscious mind. This is where the power of being misunderstood becomes undeniable. People try to analyze your intentions, predict your next move, or label your behavior, and in their effort, they show you exactly who they are. Someone might call your independence arrogance, your silence a threat, or your boundaries coldness. But those judgments aren't really about you. They're about their discomfort with qualities they lack or wish they had. Your energy becomes a litmus test, a way to separate those who are aligned with authenticity from those who are entangled in insecurity or manipulation. What makes this even more powerful is that you don't have to do anything to provoke it. The simple act of being yourself, of living in alignment with your own principles, creates a tension that forces people to reveal themselves. They spill their assumptions, react impulsively, or show envy, all without you saying a word. Your clarity and self-possession highlight their lack of it, and in every misinterpretation, every whispered comment, every sideways glance, they are handing you the evidence of their character as if on a silver platter. The more you embrace your mystery, the less you have to chase truth from others. You stop explaining, justifying, or defending yourself. Instead, you watch, quietly observing the ways people expose their real motives and priorities. Misunderstanding becomes your tool for discernment, and suddenly, what they see as confusion or distance is actually your strategy for clarity and protection. In allowing them to misunderstand you, you gain insight, power, and a vantage point few can reach. Your mystery is not a weakness. It is the ultimate revealer of truth. Number 5. When you stop defending your name, they expose their own. There's a profound power in stepping back and refusing to explain yourself to people determined to misunderstand you. Chosen ones learn that defending every word, every action, and every choice is exhausting and usually pointless. People who are set on misreading you are not looking for truth. They are looking for ammunition, an opportunity to fit you into a narrative that comforts their ego. When you stop participating in their story, the only thing left is for their own character to come to light. This is where the magic happens. By not defending yourself, you let people's true colors surface. Their assumptions, gossip, and judgment suddenly reveal more about them than they do about you. Someone might spread rumors, attack your integrity, or question your intentions, but every accusation is a window into their insecurity, envy, or fear. They are projecting their limitations, their jealousy, and their misunderstandings onto you. And in that projection, they inadvertently expose exactly who they are. The brilliance of this approach is that it flips the dynamic. When you stop bending, clarifying, or explaining, you're no longer a participant in their game. The weight of misjudgment stays entirely on them, And what was once an attempt to control, manipulate, or diminish you becomes a mirror reflecting their weaknesses and motives. You stop being a character in someone else's story and start observing, quietly witnessing how far people will go to distort your truth. Choosing not to defend your name also frees your energy in a way that people who misunderstand you can never touch. You preserve your mental space, emotional clarity, and spiritual alignment. The more they misinterpret, the more they reveal themselves, and the more invisible strings they pull for control snap in your favor. The world can mislabel you, misunderstand you, or twist your actions, but when you remain grounded and refuse to respond defensively, you let the universe and your own clarity do the work. Their misunderstandings stop being a problem for you and start being an insight into who was really aligned with integrity and who was not. In the silence of your refusal to defend, their true selves are laid bare. Number 6, they misunderstand you because you live from intention while they live from impulse. People misread you because the way you operate is fundamentally different from the way they do. Chosen ones act from intention, from a deep understanding of themselves and the consequences of their actions. Every move you make is calculated, deliberate, and aligned with your principles. You don't just react to the moment, you respond to life's patterns, energies, and opportunities with precision. But most people operate on impulse, reacting first and thinking later, driven by emotion, habit, or fear. When someone like that encounters your deliberate energy, they misinterpret it as coldness, distance, arrogance, or even manipulation. They see your calm and think you're detached. They see your control and think you're rigid. They see your foresight and think you're scheming. This misunderstanding is unavoidable, but it works in your favor. When you live intentionally, you're always several steps ahead, moving in ways people around you cannot predict. Their reactions to you reveal their patterns, priorities, and limitations. The more they try to read your motives, the more obvious it becomes that they are living from impulse while you are living from strategy. Your every action demonstrates a level of self-mastery they can't match, and they can't help but project their own frustrations and insecurities onto you. And the beauty is that you don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to explain why you do what you do or why you hold certain boundaries. The misunderstanding itself is proof that your life is operating on a different frequency, one they can sense but cannot fully comprehend. It's like walking through a room in complete control while others are stumbling over their own shadows, thinking every move you make is a puzzle to solve. Living from intention separates you from chaos and keeps your energy protected. People who misunderstand you are simply revealing the gap between impulsive living and deliberate power. Their confusion is not a reflection of your actions, it is a reflection of their inability to process life at your level. And as long as you continue to operate from intention, their misunderstanding will serve as your silent advantage, keeping you untouchable, unshakable, and unmistakably aligned with your higher purpose. Number 7. Every misinterpretation they create becomes evidence of your evolution. Every time someone misreads you, every time they twist your words or misjudge your intentions, it is proof, not of your failure, but of your growth. Chosen ones evolve in ways that people around them often cannot track or comprehend. Your thought patterns, your emotional resilience, and your approach to life have shifted, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes in seismic ones. Those who misunderstand you are simply witnesses to a version of yourself they are not equipped to meet. Their misinterpretation is not a reflection of your reality, it's a reflection of their outdated lens. When people mislabel you as distant, cold, or different, it's because you've outgrown what they are used to. Your energy no longer conforms to expectations, their expectations, or even past versions of yourself. They expect you to react as they would, to bend to their emotional needs, or to justify your choices constantly. When you refuse to comply with these outdated scripts, they call it confusion or even drama. But in truth, it is a sign that you are stepping into a new dimension of yourself, one that cannot be contained or understood by someone who hasn't evolved similarly. The brilliance of this is that misunderstanding becomes a mirror of your own ascension. Each distorted perception, each rumor, each sideways glance is a silent confirmation that you are moving beyond environments, people, and patterns that no longer serve your growth. The more they misread you, the more it highlights your freedom from their limited thinking. You are no longer measured by how well people comprehend you. You are measured by how clearly you live in alignment with your own truth. And as this unfolds, you begin to see a pattern. Confusion around you doesn't equal conflict. It equals progress. Their inability to decode your energy underscores the distance between who you were, who they are, and who you are becoming. You don't need to fix perceptions, explain yourself, or soften your truth. Their misinterpretation is simply evidence that you've leveled up, and that every step forward leaves some people behind, not because you abandoned them, but because evolution doesn't wait. Misunderstanding is not a problem. It is proof that your soul has expanded, and those who can't keep up are finally showing their place in your story. Number 8. When they can't read you, they can't control you. One of the most powerful consequences of being misunderstood is that it makes you untouchable in ways most people never notice. Chosen ones operate from a level of awareness, strategy, and emotional mastery that others simply cannot decode. When people misread your actions, your calm, or your decisions, they lose every chance of predicting or manipulating you. And make no mistake, people naturally try to control what they can't understand. Their confusion about you becomes their own limitation, a barrier that protects your energy without you having to lift a finger. Control thrives on predictability. Someone who knows your patterns, your triggers, and your weak spots can shape your behavior, influence your choices, and even exploit your generosity. But when you stop acting in ways that are immediately readable, when you align fully with your own intentions rather than their expectations, predictability disappears. Their attempts to sway you, provoke you, or pressure you into conforming fail spectacularly, because the blueprint they are using to navigate your life no longer exists. Misunderstanding becomes your shield, and their frustration becomes a measure of how far ahead you are. This untouchable position is subtle, but profound. People may whisper, gossip, or even confront you with accusations, but none of it lands because the energy they are trying to manipulate doesn't belong to them. Your decisions, your priorities, and your responses are fully yours, and their confusion is the evidence of that sovereignty. It is in this space that true freedom lives, the freedom to act, speak, and move according to your own inner compass, without seeking validation, approval, or understanding from those who cannot provide it. And the irony is delicious. The harder they try to decode you, the more they reveal their own weaknesses, limitations, and need for control. Their inability to read you underscores your strength, clarity, and independence. Misunderstanding, which might seem like a challenge or a nuisance to the untrained eye, is actually the ultimate proof that you are untouchable. It keeps you safe, elevated, and free, while those who seek to influence you are left spinning in confusion, powerless against the very presence they cannot comprehend. In their misunderstanding, you find unshakable freedom. Number 9, you stop being a character in their story and become a lesson they can't escape. When people misunderstand you, it often comes from trying to fit you into the story they already believe about life, about themselves, or about you. They want you to be predictable, convenient, and safe, something that can be easily categorized and controlled. But chosen ones refuse to perform for anyone's narrative, except their own. The moment you stop being a character in someone else's imagined story, you start to become a living lesson they cannot ignore. Their judgments, assumptions, and criticisms begin to teach them about themselves in ways they never anticipated. Your existence forces them to confront their projections. Someone who misinterprets your calm as arrogance, your boundaries as distance, or your success as threat, is learning a truth about their own mind, their own insecurities, and their own limitations. You are no longer an object in their drama. You are the undeniable evidence that life can be lived differently, and that growth, integrity, and self-possession are real possibilities. Their misreading of you becomes the vehicle for self-reflection they never asked for, and yet they can't escape it. This transformation of misunderstanding into a teaching moment works because you refuse to justify, explain, or dilute your presence. The more they try to control your story, the more obvious it becomes that their version of reality is incomplete, shallow, or constrained by fear. And the moment they realize they can't fit you into their framework, the lesson hits harder. They start to see the limits of their own perspective. Misunderstanding is no longer a threat. It is the most effective unspoken classroom. The power lies in your detachment from their need to comprehend you. You walk your path without bending, without performing, without begging for approval. And as they struggle to place you in the mental boxes they've built, they are forced to confront truths about themselves. Their discomfort, confusion, and misinterpretation become your silent teacher, showing you who truly matters, who cannot evolve alongside you, and how you have grown beyond the confines of ordinary perception. In being misunderstood, you stop being a player in their drama and start being a force they cannot escape, a lesson living in plain sight. Number 10. They misunderstand you because you're not trauma bonding with them anymore. One of the deepest reasons people misinterpret chosen ones is because you no longer operate on the same frequency that once allowed them access. Trauma bonding is subtle. It's when relationships survive not on love, respect, or alignment, but on chaos, pain, and emotional manipulation. People get used to that pattern. They expect it. They thrive on it. And when you step out of it, they panic. Your detachment, your boundaries, and your refusal to be pulled into unnecessary conflict suddenly feel like rejection to them. They misread it because they've become addicted to your presence being shaped by their drama rather than by your integrity. The truth is, when you stop trauma bonding, you are reclaiming your energy. You no longer allow your life to be dictated by someone else's emotional volatility or insecurity. This is terrifying for people who thrived on access to your chaos. They try to twist your independence into coldness, your calm into disinterest, or your self-possession into arrogance. But their interpretation is never about you. It's about their fear of losing the control they had over your emotional responses. They've been reading a version of you created by circumstance, not a version that is consciously alive, growing, and aligned with purpose. And here's where the power emerges. The moment you step fully out of trauma bonds, misunderstanding becomes a tool rather than a problem. People's inability to read your calm or your detachment confirms your evolution. Their confusion, their frustration, and their projections all serve as indicators of how far you've moved from the patterns that once held you hostage. You're no longer playing the game, bending, or sacrificing your peace to maintain someone else's comfort. This is where clarity and freedom converge. The more they misread you, the more your independence is highlighted. You don't need to convince anyone of your motives or actions. Their misunderstanding simply confirms that you are no longer accessible in the ways that were once convenient for them. You've stepped into alignment, and that alone is more than enough to shake old patterns and redefine relationships. Misunderstanding now becomes a natural byproduct of growth, a testament to the boundaries you've claimed and the sovereignty you now embody. Number 11. Your authenticity disrupts systems built on pretending. One of the most overlooked reasons people misunderstand chosen ones is that you refuse to participate in the masks, illusions, and facades that most of the world takes for granted. Society, relationships, and even workplaces often operate on performance, pretense, and superficial harmony. When you show up as your true self, aligned, confident, unfiltered, and unwilling to dilute your essence, you disrupt that carefully constructed system. People don't misread you because you're confusing. They misread you because you refuse to perform the roles they expect. Your authenticity challenges their assumptions, their comfort, and the narratives they've built around control and predictability. When you operate from truth, every interaction exposes the gaps in the systems around you. Colleagues who rely on gossip or manipulation can no longer predict your reactions. Friends who thrive on drama and dependency find that your presence no longer bends to their convenience. Even casual observers are unsettled because your integrity and self-possession highlight their own compromises and inconsistencies. The very act of being unapologetically yourself forces others to confront realities they would rather ignore. They misinterpret your calm confidence as arrogance, your boundaries as coldness, and your decisiveness as intimidation. Not because of who you are, but because your energy doesn't fit into their false narratives. This disruption is subtle but undeniable. People are forced to face the truth that not everyone will participate in their games, that not everyone will conform to social scripts, and that integrity is not negotiable. Misunderstanding becomes an inevitable byproduct of living honestly in a world that thrives on pretense. It is also an invisible filter, separating those who are aligned with authenticity from those who are only comfortable with illusion. The power in this is immense. The more you embody your truth, the less influence others have over you. Their misinterpretation, frustration, and attempts to label you become evidence of your clarity and independence. You no longer operate to please, explain, or justify. Your authenticity alone destabilizes systems built on pretense, and the more they misread you, the clearer it becomes. You are untouchable, uncontainable, and operating on a level they cannot imitate, manipulate, or understand. Misunderstanding is simply the byproduct of living in alignment, and in that misreading lies your quiet, undeniable power. Number 12. Misunderstanding is how the universe hides you from people who would waste your purpose. One of the most profound truths chosen ones discover is that being misunderstood is not a flaw. It's a form of divine protection. The universe, in its quiet and intricate way, shields you from people who are incapable of handling your energy, vision, or truth. Misunderstanding acts like camouflage. It keeps those who would drain you, distract you, or exploit you from fully accessing your life. People will often misinterpret your choices, your calm, or your distance as arrogance, indifference, or strangeness. But beneath that misreading is a layer of protection you didn't even need to create consciously. Think about it. If everyone immediately understood you, if everyone instantly grasped your intentions and your clarity, the world would flood you with expectations, manipulations, and unnecessary interference. But when people misread you, their confusion becomes a buffer. They reach for explanations, control, or access that you never offered, and in failing to decode you, they naturally remove themselves from your path. Misunderstanding becomes the universe's way of filtering out those who are incompatible with your purpose, without you lifting a finger. This is why being misread by others is actually a sign of alignment. It shows that your energy, your choices, and your presence are operating on a level too refined, intentional, and elevated for some people to handle. They interpret your self-possession as distance because their perception can't contain your magnitude. Every sideways glance, every mislabeling, every whispered judgment is simply the side effect of a life operating in alignment with purpose, not in reaction to opinion. The ultimate beauty is that you don't need to explain or defend yourself. Misunderstanding keeps the wrong people at bay while leaving space for those who are truly aligned to connect with your truth. It protects your energy, preserves your clarity, and ensures that the people who matter can meet you where you are. In this sense, misinterpretation is not a problem. It is a silent, strategic blessing. It is the universe's way of saying that your life, your purpose, and your energy are too precious to be diluted, and those who cannot understand are simply being filtered out so you can continue to rise unimpeded. Number 13. You become a different person in everyone's mind, and that's your advantage. One of the most fascinating powers of being misunderstood is that people will each create their own version of you, and none of those versions are accurate. Chosen ones are fluid, evolving, and multi-layered, but the human brain seeks simplicity and predictability. When people encounter someone they cannot categorize, they fill in the gaps with assumptions, projections, and fantasies. Suddenly, you are not just one person. You are a dozen different versions in the minds of others, each shaped by their own experiences, fears, and desires. And what most people see as confusion or misinterpretation is actually your strategic advantage. The fact is, when people cannot fully read you, they cannot control you. They react to their version of you, not to who you really are. Some may see you as cold, distant, or arrogant. Others may see you as mysterious, untouchable, or even threatening. Every single version is a reflection of them, not you. And because they are operating off their own distorted perception, they can't anticipate your true moves, your intentions, or your growth. They are essentially playing a game of chess with a piece they think they know, while you've already rewritten the rules. This dynamic gives you freedom few people understand. You are never pinned down by expectations, labels, or assumptions. You can act, decide, and evolve without needing to explain, justify, or conform. Their misreading becomes your invisible shield, a layer of protection that allows you to move through life without interference. While they debate who you really are, you are quietly becoming exactly who you are meant to be, unbound by anyone's mental constructs. The beauty of this advantage is that it's invisible to them. They think they understand you. They think they are keeping up, and they often act on that illusion, exposing their own limitations and weaknesses in the process. Meanwhile, you operate from clarity, intention, and authenticity. Being a different person in everyone's mind is not a problem. It's your hidden superpower. Their versions of you become irrelevant because your reality exists independently of perception, untouchable and unstoppable. Number 14. Their confusion is the gateway to your clarity. One of the most powerful lessons chosen ones learn is that being misunderstood is not a setback. It's a signal, a compass pointing toward your own growth and clarity. The more people twist your words, misinterpret your actions, or project their insecurities onto you, the clearer it becomes who you really are and what truly matters in your life. Their confusion forces you to stop performing, stop seeking validation, and stop bending to expectations that were never aligned with your purpose. In this way, misunderstanding is not a challenge to fight against. It's a gateway into deeper self-awareness and unwavering clarity. When people misread you, it forces introspection. You are confronted with the contrast between who you are and who others think you are. That contrast is enlightening. It separates your truth from their projections, making your own intentions, values, and boundaries sharper and more defined. Suddenly, every criticism, misjudgment, and sideways glance becomes a tool, a way to understand yourself more fully rather than a burden to carry. The confusion around you stops being external noise and starts being a mirror reflecting your own growth. And the beauty of this is that it frees you from the trap of over-explaining or justifying your existence. When you realize that other people's perceptions are rooted in their limitations, not your reality, you stop allowing their interpretations to dictate your energy. Their misunderstanding becomes a filter, showing you who is aligned with your truth and who is not. The clearer you become about yourself, the less power anyone else's confusion has over you. Ultimately, their misunderstanding becomes a kind of protection, a guide, and a catalyst all at once. It clarifies where your boundaries should be, who deserves your energy, and which directions in life are aligned with your purpose. Instead of being frustrated by their inability to understand, you begin to see it as a gift. The more they are confused, the more you are grounded. Their confusion is not your obstacle. It is the very mechanism through which your own clarity, strength, and authenticity emerge, untouchable, undeniable, and fully realized. Conclusion. At the end of the day, being misunderstood is not a weakness, a flaw, or a mistake. It is a defining strength. For chosen ones, every misinterpretation, sideways glance, or misjudged action is a sign that you are operating on a higher level than most people can comprehend. It is proof that your energy, your purpose, and your authenticity are untouchable, untethered from the limitations of ordinary perception. When people misread you, they are revealing themselves, their insecurities, their fears, their agendas, and in doing so, they are giving you the ultimate gift: clarity about who belongs in your life, who doesn't, and the boundaries you must uphold to protect your peace and your path. Misunderstanding is the universe's way of keeping you safe, filtered, and aligned. It separates those who are compatible with your vision from those who drain your energy. It forces reflection, sharpens discernment, and allows your evolution to continue without interruption. Each misreading becomes evidence of your growth, each misinterpretation a shield against control, and every confused reaction a mirror showing the truth about the other person. In refusing to shrink, justify, or explain yourself, you transform what others perceive as distance or coldness into your most profound source of power. You become untouchable, strategic, and unapologetically aligned with your higher purpose. Remember this: the world will always try to fit you into a story that is too small for your essence. People will misread your calm, your confidence, your choices, and even your intentions. But that is exactly what keeps your power intact. The less they understand, the more your energy remains intact, the more your sovereignty remains unbroken, and the more your life continues to expand on your terms. Being misunderstood is not just a byproduct of living authentically. It is one of the greatest tools a chosen one has to thrive, protect themselves, and rise above limitations that others cannot even see. So embrace it, honor it, and let it guide you. Let confusion do its work while you focus on your growth, your purpose, and your alignment. Your clarity, power, and authenticity will always speak louder than their misinterpretations ever could. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more insights that empower and awaken. Like this video, leave a comment sharing your experience, and share it with someone who needs this truth today. Every action you take helps spread understanding to those who are ready to step into their true power. God bless you.